All right, we are going to take you live. There you see Washington's Ronald Reagan National Airport. That is inside Donald Trump's motorcade. It's now on the tarmac, heading to his Boeing 757, that Trump-branded aircraft. You're likely to be able to see it in the distance. It's parked on the ramp at the very, very edge. Donald Trump expected to ascend those stairs, head back to his golf course and residence in New Jersey. That, of course, a secondary residence, one that was much closer to the courtroom that he was in today in Washington, D.C., just a few blocks away from the U.S. Capitol, facing yet his latest indictment, where he pleaded not guilty. As we wait for that motorcade to stop, let's touch base with Katie Simpson, who is outside the courthouse itself. Katie, take us through the spectacle of the day.
And David, one thing I want to say to you, if we get word that Donald Trump is going to stop and talk to reporters and answer some questions, just interrupt me. I can't sit here, so you tell me, because I suspect that our viewers and the world kind of wants to hear what Donald Trump has to say after this latest significant development. According to reporters who were inside the room when this happened, Donald Trump entered the courtroom with his lawyers sitting kind of anxiously, kind of quietly, where Jack Smith, a few meters away, Jack Smith, the special counsel who's been leading these investigations, sat in the same room just a few meters away from Donald Trump. Apparently, according to reporters in the room, Donald Trump at times stared at Jack Smith, but Jack Smith did not return the gaze. Now, Donald Trump stood as he entered he spoke his name to the judge and entered a not guilty plea on all 4 counts that he's facing in connection to this trial, to this case. Donald Trump, of course, is accused of participating in a conspiracy to try to subvert democracy, to change the results of a free and fair election in the hopes that he could hold onto power after losing the 2020 vote. Now, Donald Trump, we did not see him actually enter the court or leave the court. He left just a short time ago, heading back to the airport. He'll be hopping on his private jet and heading back to New Jersey. There's a chance he could speak to reporters.
And Katie, with that, I actually will jump in on you there.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry, Katie. I'm just going to jump in on you there. You've set us up quite well because the motorcade has now stopped in front of the stairs that go in. We're expecting his protective detail to open the door on that SUV very shortly. You see that media that are traveling with the former president, the hopeful to one day be president. Once again, we're expecting that he will get out of that vehicle. The question is, does he go straight up the stairs or does he come out and speak to those assembled media? And frankly, we don't know. Now we see the door is open. Donald Trump there, stepping out, taking the umbrella. That's a sign that he may indeed walk over to those cameras and speak his mind, as he so often does.
Well, thank you very much. This is a very sad day for America, and it was also very sad driving through Washington, D.C. and seeing the filth and the decay and all of the broken buildings and walls and the graffiti. This is not the place that I left. It's a very sad thing to see it. When you look at what's happening, this is a persecution of a political opponent. This was never supposed to happen in America. This is the persecution of the person that's leading by very, very substantial numbers in the Republican primary and leading Biden by a lot. So if you can't beat him, you persecute him or you prosecute him. We can't let this happen in America. Thank you very much.
Do you want these trials to happen before the 2024 election?
All right, not taking any questions there. Donald Trump continuing the lines that he's used before, that this is nothing more than a persecution, and a persecution because, as he says, he's the front runner running against Joe Biden in the next presidential election. And as he and his proxies, his lawyers and others around him have said, that this is an attempt to get him out of that race because he alleges it's the only way they can beat him. Katie, I'll turn back to you because, of course, this is a man who's now facing significant legal jeopardy. You were taking us through what happened in the courtroom before I cut you off. Please do continue.
Well, no, and that is the latest breaking news right there, David. Donald Trump staying very, very much on brand. We've seen Donald Trump try to take advantage of his legal troubles, really trying to campaign and fundraise off of them. After the first indictment, remember, Donald Trump sent out those fundraising emails, even one with a fake mugshot on a T-shirt trying to make some money. Donald Trump has been able to raise tens of millions of dollars in donations, and we do know, due to disclosures, that a lot of those donations, tens of millions of dollars, have actually gone to pay his legal costs. Lawyers are expensive. These court cases are very serious. You need a lot of lawyers for these kinds of court cases. So Donald Trump really sticking to what he's been saying throughout this entire process. With each and every indictment, he has claimed that he is being attacked by the Biden administration. He claims that the Biden administration is weaponizing the Department of Justice to lay charges against him as a way to try to hurt him ahead of the 2024 vote. Donald Trump, every time we've seen these indictments happen, Donald Trump has actually not only just maintained the support he has among Republican voters, but it's actually grown quite a bit. Donald Trump is comfortably in the lead to be the next Republican presidential nominee. A lot can happen before next year and any sort of final decision is made which names are going to be on that Republican presidential ticket. But if that contest were to be held today, Donald Trump would very clearly be at the top of that ticket. The latest poll from the New York Times Siena College has him around 54%. His closest competitor, Ron DeSantis, is at 17%. So even though Donald Trump is facing these incredibly serious legal troubles, his political strength, it's at the top of his game.
We look at the various legal troubles. In New York State, the porn hush money, the classified documents found at Mar-a-Lago and the charges that flowed from it. And now this indictment directly connected to the assertion that he attempted to undermine the U.S. election, something he has framed, Katie, as free speech. When you look at the state of that electoral race, because of course it is ongoing, these legal troubles and his own political future, his political ambitions are intertwined. What are we expecting over the next couple of months as that campaigning and courtroom appearances combine?
Well, Donald Trump is going to continue on. He's got a campaign rally planned for next week. And then, of course, he has a number of court dates. The big things really kick off next year. In March of next year, Donald Trump will have the, as you said, I think, porn hush money. Only in America in 2023 would be talking about porn hush money on the national television, but here we are. But yeah, that case will take place in March, the trial. It's expected to take a couple of weeks, and it'll be right after Super Tuesday, which is a significant day in the United States when it comes to primary races. Super Tuesday is a Tuesday in March. A number of different states hold primary races, and it really will establish who is going to likely clinch the nomination, be the presidential nominee for their party. Super Tuesday is a really big deal in America. And so that'll happen a couple of weeks after Super Tuesday. And then in late May, Donald Trump will have the trial related to his classified documents case. Well, the porn hush money, as you say, David, case is serious. It is not nearly as serious, the charge is not nearly as serious as what he's going to be facing in that classified documents case. The evidence that we've seen so far, described by loyal Republicans as quite damning, essentially. We heard that from Bill Barr, the former Attorney General, who has criticized Trump, but was a former Attorney General for him. So that's going to be quite significant. And then they've got to figure out a court date for this trial. There's a lot of evidence in this case. The Department of Justice says it's the largest investigation in its history. So it's going to take time to get evidence and disclosure, get that over to the defense in this case. And then, of course, decisions are going to have to be made whether this happens before or after the 2024 vote.
All right, Katie Simpson outside that courtroom in Washington, D.C. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now just to remind you about the charges that Donald Trump is actually facing. They are conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction and attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. For more on Trump's case, we're joined by Cheryl Bader. She is a former assistant federal prosecutor and professor of law. Cheryl, thank you very much for joining us. A lot has been said from Donald Trump's defense about how this is about his First Amendment rights and it's interfering with his right to free speech. What is this, in your mind, actually about when you look at the law and the indictment?
So I think Trump will try to mount a First Amendment defense, claiming that this is protected political speech. And in the United States, political speech does get the highest form of protection. But this case is really not just about the lies, but it's about the action that Trump took. He used these lies to fuel his action. In other words, he claimed this big lie of election fraud, that voters were voting after they were dead, et cetera. There was no evidence of that found. And he was told repeatedly by aides, by judges that were hearing these cases, by the Department of Justice, his lawyers, intelligence agencies, that there is no evidence, but he continued to persist and to pressure government officials in various states, to pressure Department of Justice officials, to pressure the vice president, to try to stop the count, to create false electors. And it's one thing, he has the absolute right to go on his, social media and say, I won the election, there's all this election fraud. He can say that, that's not a crime. But the actions that he took based on those lies, that's where the crime is.
When we read through the indictment, although names are not frequently mentioned, you look at someone like Mike Pence, and it would appear that the notes that he took in and around the time of that vote being certified in Congress, that vote to confirm Joe Biden won the election, those notes and Mike Pence appear to be key. When we move towards a trial, if we get to a trial stage, what role does Trump's former vice president play?
So I think Mike Pence has a key role in this case, because first of all, you can see the drama play out. The indictment itself, it's 45-page indictment, and I think it's actually worth reading. It lays out the facts methodically, but also in a way that a layperson can read and understand. And it shows this pressure campaign. And as Trump became, more and more frustrated that his efforts, weren't coming to fruition, and he applied more pressure on the vice president. And you see these men sort of, doing battle in terms of, what would happen, and would Mike Pence cave and actually not certify this election. And so he took copious notes. And although he was, reluctant to come forward, I think he will come forward and be a key witness. And I think it will be, a dramatic and powerful testimony.
Donald Trump entered a plea today of not guilty. Assuming that continues to be the case and this moves towards some sort of trial stage, what's the timeline? Could this actually be resolved before the 2024 election?
So that's what the prosecutors are trying to do. And I think it is possible. The judge in the case is going to have a hearing at the end of the month and is going to determine the trial schedule. And I think the judge is going to try to have this case finished before the election. But, of course, Trump has always been, his strategy has always been delay, delay, delay. And I think his best defense may be that he is reelected, and therefore he is able to, stop the prosecution, because he will be in charge of the Department of Justice. But I think that it's very possible that this case can get tried. And in fact, Alvin Bragg, the New York DA, has said he would be willing to sort of step aside and not stand on ceremony, that he indicted first, so that it would give a wider berth for them to be able to potentially try the case. And I wouldn't be surprised if Special Prosecutor Smith also says that he would prefer to try this case because of its significance and because there's only one defendant. I think it would be in some ways more streamlined than his case involving classified documents, because in that case, there's going to be issues around what the jurors can see, because of course they're not certified to see classified information. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Smith saying this is the case to go first. So
much of this is uncharted territory, I know, but What happens if we actually get to a point where Donald Trump is indeed found guilty and the presidential campaign is still underway? What do they do?
Right. So this is unprecedented. So, we don't have a lot to go on, but our Constitution does not restrict somebody from either running for office or holding office if they've been indicted or even convicted. And Trump has said he will go forward. And so, we may have a situation where we're going through the whole, campaign process while he's embroiled in these, various legal trials, and may get to a point where he's convicted on one of or more of these cases. And, of course, look, just practically, I couldn't imagine, several months ago that we would be in this position where we could have the leading Republican candidate, been indicted multiple times on very serious felony charges. But, with Trump, it's, you just never know. But, you want to imagine to yourself, like, how could, what would happen in terms of if there's a jail sentence imposed, right? He has a Secret Service detail, right? What is that going to mean? Like, so this is, as you say, all, uncharted territory. And, really just it's a very sad situation that we're even here at this point.
All right, Cheryl, more of this to come. Thank you very much.
It's good to be here.